Thank you. Thank you to Porrick and to Michael for inviting us down here to discuss the project. I heard a lot of discussion this morning about various forms of biomass and what the best thing to do and to what developments need to take place. Part of the topic that I want to discuss today is that everybody has great ideas. Everybody wants to do the right thing. I think everybody in this room would want to say, let's do the right thing. My point to you and giving something back is it's not just that easy. You have to put in a lot of hard work and dedication to get these plants up and running, and I want to share some of the experiences with you on that. My colleague Shane here will give you a bit of information on how the plant is ongoing. He's our performance manager, but as I say, I'll give you a bit of experience on what it actually took to get there. So B9 Energy Group, if you're familiar with us or not, we're based in Larne, County Antrim. We give equal consideration to people, planet and profit, and we have experienced consistent and satisfying growth during the period of the past 25 years when we've been growing. We are still the largest independent operator of wind farms. I don't know if 49 wind farms and 750 turbines is current. It probably isn't. It's probably grown since the last time I got them numbers. But that's where the business started in developing wind farms, both North and South Ireland. And then we started developing an operation and maintenance business to look after them wind farms. And then we subletted that experience that we had in operation and maintenance out to other companies. When we sold out the development arm of B9 Energy, the wind farm development business, a lot of the directors diversified into other forms of renewables, one of which is wet renewables. The team that I'm involved in is B9 Organic Energy, and we're solely based looking at landfill gas and anaerobic digestion. There is actually B9 shipping, where we're going back in time, shall we say, and using sailing boats to ship cargo around the world and use biomethane for fueling that as well. And then there's B9 Solutions, which was set up about 4 years ago. Because we had a lot of experience in the renewable energy market, we set up a consultancy company so that we could share our experience with other people. Some of the landfill gas development sites, some based in Northern Ireland. The North Kerry landfill site in the south here has been going for the past 3.5 years now. And the other ones in the south are waiting on the feed-in tariff. So the main project we want to discuss today is a local AD project. It's a 75,000 tons per annum capacity plant. I'd be confident in saying it's still the most advanced system in the UK, combining enhanced anaerobic digestion. And the feedstocks are from commercial and industrial sector and from municipal. We can take in both category 2 and 3 material, and we've been operational since 2014. So what is that? We take in food processing byproducts from the commercial and industrial industry. We also take in brown bin material, both food and garden waste. We put it through an enhanced anaerobic digestion process, the product of which is biogas, which we use to fuel an engine, and we get combined heat and power. The other product of which is fertilizer. It's called digestate, and that we sell that as a soil conditioner. So again, the topic that I want to cover today, if everybody's sitting, yes, this is a great idea. It is a great idea to be sustainable. There is a business case for it, and we can make money at doing these developments. However, don't think that within 3 months you'll have planning permission, you'll have the funding in the bank, everybody will be patting you in the back saying you're doing a great job, and you'll be digging soil. It's not that easy. In terms of bioenergy projects, I want you to think of this circle as an 8-legged stool. Silly, who would build an 8-legged stool? But think of it just for me for the time being. The point that I want to make is you need to have at least 7 of the 8 legs in place before the project actually makes sense. And I'll go into each one of the legs in itself, but if you don't, or if you have 5, the project, like sitting in any stool without the proper legs, is going to fall over. So just bear that in mind as I go through each one of the points. The other point as well is timing. Most developments, especially the larger scale developments, fail because people and developers underestimate the amount of time and effort that they have to put into these plants, both in terms of time itself, but also in terms of money. They start off with a pot of money, and be that X, and think, that'll do me, that'll get me through, that's fine. Then all of a sudden they get to X and they're nearly there, so they go and they borrow some more money and that becomes 2X. It's more than what they thought. They're nearly there again, they get another step, that becomes 3X. So as a developer, you have to realize that this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So we'll go through each one of the eight legs, and just to give you an idea, the site. Is there ever an optimum site for renewable energy development? I have asked people this in the past and people have smiled at me. Never has there been the optimum site, the perfect site. No one has ever brought that to my attention. You go in as a developer and you look at a site to say, not how good it is, but what are the problems as a developer that you're going to have to iron out. I emphasize this, and especially with anaerobic digestion, if you're going to do an industrial development, i.e. take in industrial wastes, keep that to industrial land. Don't try and put that down a lane on a farm. If it's an agricultural development, keep that within farmland. It's easier to get through planning permission. Initial feasibility and viability assessments are key. Again, don't look for the good points. The good points are there. Don't focus on them, but focus on the key showstoppers that's going to create 3-month, 9-month, 18-month lag times within your development program. Sites with outline planning or licensing are favoured, but they may not necessarily be key to your development. So you could have a site that may have had planning permission some time ago, and you as a developer come in to say, can I take it forward? There may be situations where the previous developer was not successful and never got it through, which are unheard of until you actually get involved. Planning permission. As a developer, we would encourage pre-application discussions. I think you have the same thing in the south here, where you actually get to meet with the planners and you tell them, this is going to be landing on your desk in 2 months' time. These are the key areas. Do you have any problems? And most of the planning departments are open enough to say to you, yes, no, we'll come back to you. But it's very important that you get a grasp from them what the key issues are, and that you get most of them bottomed out. If you can get 90% of the key issues bottomed out in the initial application, it saves time and money. Engage with stakeholders. There's a lot of renewable energy developers that are afraid to speak to the locals because they might shout at them. Open up your doors. You're not doing anything wrong. If you're confident in your development, open up your doors, bring them in and educate them. 95% or 99% of the developments that we've seen is that people haven't opened up their doors and they've kept them closed. Don't be afraid to tell people. That's what they're lacking in education. Environmental impact assessments are key within the planning assessment. The main areas of concern, especially with anaerobic digestion, would be emissions to air, odour, emissions to water, traffic and noise. But that doesn't overlook all the other environmental impacts that such developments have, be it biomass or bioenergy, when it comes to the population, floral and fauna, cultural heritage, climate, landscape and soils, visual impact and material assets. All are absolutely key, so that you can say from the bottom of your heart, you have looked at everything and you'll not have any adverse impact in the surrounding environment. Licensing. Large-scale developments will require an environmental license. It's the same in the south. You're not allowed to just build one day, get planning permission, and run it whatever way you want to. There is strict legislation out there that keeps tabs on you. Make sure that what you're doing is right. But the one thing I've found in great detail in working with the regulator, they're not there to punish you. They're there to work with you. They're there to learn, and then they're there to make sure that what you've said you'll do is what you actually do carry out. It's there to reduce emissions to air, water and land. The scale of the development itself is key to whether you will be operating under an IPPC permit or under a waste license. Subtle differences is that you have to spend a lot more money if you're IPPC permitted in terms of the emission standards that you have to live to, but that's because of the scale of the development. Again, optimum. If you're doing all this work for your environmental impact assessment and you're putting all this technical information together, write it in such a way that it will fit into your license, because the same people who is going to be ticking your box for your planning application is going to be ticking your box for your license as well. So just bear that in mind. It is important also, there's breath documents, I'm sure you're all aware of them, that they're industrial standards that most modern technologies have to be designed to. Consult your local BREF, make sure that what you're putting forward is up to scratch and that it meets the best available technology. Feedstock. The quantity and quality of the feedstock will determine the volume and composition of the gas, not the actual digester itself. You have some technology suppliers that say, I guarantee you 65% methane all the time. It'll be the best methane that anybody's ever produced, and we're getting that down the road so I can prove it to you. It's not the digester that provides that. It's the bacteria, and what you feed the bacteria will dictate the volume and the quantity of the biogas. There are feedstock enhancements out there which would improve the conversion rate of the bacteria, but they'll not actually create any more energy than what's not already there. They'll just make it more available for the bacteria to get to. Feedstock must be treated in a balanced format. You don't want to create a biological imbalance, because like in your tank of, say it's an anaerobic digestion tank, you've millions of bacteria just looking to be fed. If you keep them within a balanced diet, they'll produce you lots of biogas, produce lots of money, everybody's happy. But if sometimes you look at a sheet and go, oh, fats, I need to get in fats because there's more energy in fats than there is in carbohydrates. So I'm going to concentrate all my energy in fats. Within, I would say, 5 days of feeding your plant nothing but fats, it'll be sick. There'll be no more gas. Everything will be switched off, and you're going, why did that happen? The plant in itself, in the same way as you do, you need a balanced diet. The bacteria themselves need a balanced diet. They like to be kept happy. The feedstock also determines the nutrient quality of the digestate, and it also determines the pre-treatment requirements. As I say, we're animal byproduct. We're under the animal byproduct legislation, which means that we have to treat our material to 70 degrees centigrade for 1 hour under a 12 mil screen. That's because we take in food waste. That there in itself determines that we need pasteurization. If we were only taking in agricultural feedstocks, we wouldn't need that step within our process. The feedstock also determines the gate fees. If you're taking in local slurries or grass silage, a local farmer isn't going to pay you £100 a tonne for that. Here's my silage and here's £100 a tonne with it. I don't think that has ever happened. But in terms of waste diversion from landfill, there is gate fees that come along with that type of material. Product utilisation, absolutely key to growth of this industry. The biogas itself, it isn't just for putting into an engine, creating electricity and moving on. That's the first step. Biogas can be sold, can be cleaned and compressed and used as a vehicle fuel. It can be cleaned and compressed and moved to various sites. And it also can be put into the natural gas grid. The gas itself is a fuel and should be used as a fuel for future developments, whatever is going to make you the most viable project and is going to make you money. The digestate itself is a very valuable organic fertilizer. It's been overlooked in the past, but it has come to fruition in the future because we've got a quality standard to it. It's no longer waste after it passes through our process, and we have got PAS 110 certification. Grid and utilities connection. If you're going to be selling your electricity into the grid, or you're going to locate your project within a certain area, you have to get connection. This sounds the most simplest thing in the world, but believe me, other people have put money into projects and they haven't got grid connection, and they're sitting waiting on grid connection, and it's a serious issue. The grid connection is key because that actually allows you to put the electricity back down into the actual local grid network. If you've picked this site, and as I say, you've picked the optimum site and everything's perfect and you're going to get planning no problem and nobody's causing you any issues, if you can't get a grid connection to that site, but your only way of making revenue is from electricity sales, stop banging your head against the wall. NIE will not give you a grid connection, or who your local provider is. If they're not going to give it to you, look for a different site. Within Northern Ireland in particular, it was explained to me very early in my days at B9 that most of the good wind sites are to the west of the province. Most of the population is to the east of the province. So where your actual strong grid connections are to the east of the province. Where all your wind potential and your renewable energy development potential is to the west. Complete imbalance, but that leaves us with a very fractured and problematic grid system. There are situations where the grid is just refused point blank to particular projects, and that has happened. Just at the bottom, a bonus to any AD development will be a customer for the heat, which is produced as well. Power purchase agreements and ROCs. Again, the power purchase agreement is the long-term contract which you'll get from who's ever going to purchase your energy, and that's what you take as a bankable contract to the funder or to your bank. Renewable obligation certificates, you feed in tariff in the south. It's a government incentive to generate renewable energy. The power is sold then to the single electricity market for Ireland based on the spot price. Technology and design. We feel we've carried out quite a lot of design and quite a lot of extensive research into various technologies out there. Technical evaluation and due diligence is key, so that you do find out that you're going to get the energy in the end, that the bugs are going to be happy, and you are going to get what you said it will. The plant is going to perform as you think it will. Just one thing, that make sure your technology meets within design limitations that you tell to the regulator. You don't want to give them a surprise and go, we told you 20,000 tonnes per annum at the first meeting, we're going to change that to 120,000, is that okay? That doesn't work. Be open and honest from the start. And finance, just my last point before I hand over to Shane. And getting back to that 7-legged, 8-legged stool, banks are completely risk adverse. Nothing's changed there. You'll need to have 7 contractual points in place before you actually take this project to the bank. There are corporate finance, venture capital houses out there that will maybe go in 5, possibly 6. But then there is funding available, but the risk, you take a lot of that on yourself with the finance. I'll just hand over to Shane here, and he'll go through some of the performance of the plant.
Thanks, David. David gave you a good explanation there of the development of the plant and what was needed to bring the plant to where it is now. I'm going to give you a little bit more information about the largest plant which it has developed in Dungannon. So some of the drivers that pushed this plant to become a reality was the food waste regulations. They've been in place in Ireland for several years now, and it's taken that several years to increase the tonnage that can be diverted from landfill. They are only really becoming into place in Northern Ireland this year, so there's a bit of a lag behind it. So any business with more than 50 kilograms of food waste in a week applies that they must not send their food waste to landfill and have a separate bin for their food waste collections. 50 kilograms isn't a lot of waste, so almost all businesses will be applying for this. The cost of landfill has been rising year on year, majorly because of landfill tax, and this is likely going to continue. So having another avenue for some of your waste, especially for food waste, as it's generally the heaviest portion of someone's waste, if you can take your food waste out of your bin, it dramatically decreases the weight. And with pay by weight coming in Ireland, this is becoming even more relevant, that you can get your weight out of your black bin and into your organic bin, which is going to save you a lot of money. There's also several environmental drivers, such as climate change and more renewable electricity, which people have gone through today, which has pushed this plant into development. This is an overview of the facility before it was built. So it's enhanced anaerobic digestion. A large part of the process is mechanical separation of the food waste. Food waste is particularly hard to handle. Comes in a range of formats and can cause a lot of problems for machinery and for trying to get it into the AD process in the first place. There's a 2-stage AD hydrolysis and anaerobic digestion with 2 AD tanks and 2.76 megawatts currently of renewable electricity. So some of the feedstock, as David said, is very important to a plant like this, and getting the right feedstock gets the right gas, which in turn provides the good electricity. So one of the niche markets that Granville Eco Park has tapped into is the ability to process packaged food waste, and we're not afraid of taking in plastic bags, etc. So there has been a large push before on biodegradable bags and separation, and there's been problems with contamination in organic waste. So what David has preempted that and gone for mechanical separation of the packaged waste. So the first stage is separating the plastic from the food waste, creating a soup of the food waste and the plastics which are extracted and sent for further recycling and eventually energy recovery. Some of the things that we would process include packaged food straight from supermarkets. That would include returns. So factories have an awful lot of material that doesn't meet the quality grade, or potentially a fridge breaks down on the way to a store, and all that can come without being depackaged to our plant. You also have food scraps, so you're looking at restaurants, hotels in the catering industry have a lot of food waste just from the preparation of food, which can all be processed at the plant. Any category 3 material can be processed at our facility, so this may include sludges, byproducts from the processing industry, or even some bloods. And again, the sludges is something that we also treat and to a certain extent. So one of the key points of this facility is that there's an awful lot of food waste in the island of Ireland, and although the food waste regulations are now in there, I don't believe that we're going to actually successfully extract it from the black bin without having these pre-treatment that are necessary. There's a large part of the food waste that is in packets, and people cannot get that separated at source. It takes an awful lot of education and time, and it still doesn't get correct. So to really extract that last part and successfully divert it from landfill, we need to look at these pre-treatment options, which is what we can do at Granville. So some of the benefits of using it, I don't want to get into how much carbon can be saved. As we realised earlier, there's a lot of confusion over that. There's economic benefits, as I said. By not sending it to landfill, you're saving money, and we would come in. We've offered significant savings to a lot of our customers who take food waste to our facility. Recycling and recovery. We can offer recycling and destruction certificates, which are necessary to show that companies now with their ISO 14001 systems needs to show that they're not sending the material to landfill and they're actually offsetting their own carbon usage and electricity usage. And the fact that we have the capacity to treat 75,000 tonnes per annum, which is about 1,300 to 1,400 tonnes per week, is a significant amount. So this is just an overview of the facility. There's 2.76 megawatts currently installed of electricity, which is due to rise this year. We're IPPC regulated, which means that we're committing to all the pollutant factors and meeting all requirements. Our digested fertilizer, which is separated rather than normal digested, actually separated into a fibre. That has reached past 110 certification, which means it's no longer a waste and goes out the gate now as a product into the horticultural industry. We have full animal byproducts approval for all Cat 3 material and some Category 2 material. And we also kind of try and keep everything to the highest standard. So we've achieved 9001, 14001 and 18001, and we're trying to run the facility as best we can. So if anyone needs any more information on the site, please get in touch. I'll leave some brochures here at the front if anyone wants to pick it up. And if they're more interested in the site, they can come and talk to us. Thank you.